Okay, so now that you've taken both web design classes, you should feel ready, hopefully, to start freelancing, which is my goal for you. Taking this class is to freelance or work for an agency, but freelancing on the side, I think, is always good because it keeps your skills fresh. So here's what you need to do to kind of get started. Yeah, you finished the class. So how to apply those skills. So before your first gig, you need to get an EIN, which is an employee ID number that you get through the IRS. Be sure that you go through irs.gov and not a third-party thing. It's free. It just ties to your social security number so that you don't have to use that in those W-9 situations where you do freelance work. You can just give your EIN. You also need a separate bank account. That is very important because you want to make sure that you're putting all the money that you are earning tax-free in one place. You can sign up for like a credit union account. I have a Golden One account for my business, and then I have a different credit union account with my husband and for my salaried gigs and all that. It helps if that separate bank account comes with a credit card. That way you can charge like subscription fees to that account and then pay it from that account. So you're keeping everything in one bucket. The idea is to keep all your business expenses and funds in one place. Also, you might as well just set up a PayPal business account and a Venmo account because people are going to want to pay you that way. Try to choose a name that is your name or that is the same as your business name. You need to figure out how you're going to track your time and expenses. I use Harvest, which costs me about $130 a year or something like that, but it's totally worth it for me because I use it for tracking time, invoicing clients, and keeping track of expenses. So it's really handy for me. And I believe it attaches to PayPal for the payment processing. I've also previously used FreshBooks. I've used a spreadsheet. There are invoicing options within like Square that are free. So you need to do some research and figure out if you need a free one to find one that'll work for you. I also recommend that you organize Google Docs for your proposals and projects. I have a folder called Clients that I use, and let me see if I can show you. Actually, it'll be easier. I wanted to show you. So I have my clients folder here, and I have myself in there as a client because I do work on my own marketing and promotions. So this is like my freelance web business section of my Google Docs. So it's called Clients. I've got all the proposals I ever propose on in here. And I do archive these occasionally because I don't need to keep them for the last 10, 15 years. And then I have, when the proposal becomes a job, I create a folder in here that says who the client is. And then inside that, I keep any projects I work on with them. And I usually keep an admin folder or an admin document that has all the information about the project so that after 2 years, when they come back to me and say, hey, can you do this thing? I can go back and look at my notes. I also can share that admin details page with the client if I'm, wrapping up the job and not working with them anymore, or if they just are like, I forgot my password. That allows me to access that wherever I need. And then you might want to become an affiliate with a web host. I'm an affiliate with Green Geeks, as I mentioned, so I get a kickback every time somebody signs up for a hosting account. And if you're going to be doing web design, why leave that money on the table, right? Why not invest in one hosting provider that you like, become an affiliate, and then they will, you get a little better service because you're an affiliate, and they pay you, which is nice. Taxes, dun, dun, dun. Nobody likes these. If you live in Sacramento, the city of Sacramento, like me, you need a BOT, a business occupancy tax. It's not a license, but if you are running any kind of freelance business out of your home in Sacramento, you have to pay a very small percentage of your yearly earnings. So it's not that big a deal, and you get a nice little piece of paper that you're supposed to display in your office. Mine's around here somewhere, I promise. In West Sac, it's a license. So figure out where you live and what you need for that location. California sales tax, if you are selling a product like art or shoes or bows, jewelry, any of that, you have to pay sales tax on those items. And you really need to pay it. Otherwise they can come after you. And from what I hear, they are more well-funded and more aggressive than the IRS. So you don't really want to mess with that. I personally just went and paid my last 3 years of sales taxes because I forgot, and it was under $200. I don't sell a lot of art, sadly. If you are selling a service like web design, you do not have to pay California sales tax on a service. So only if you're handing over a physical product do you need to pay sales tax. And I believe that if you design something and then print it, the print shop pays the sales tax. You are providing the service. If you physically print it at your house, then you might have to pay sales tax on it. And that sales tax, if you just Google it, there are different sales taxes for the state, and then there are additional sales taxes for your city. So I think for Sacramento, it's 8.25 because there's a little bit of added tax to the city. And then federal taxes, if you make over $650 or so, $500 a year, if you need to file a Schedule C, which is basically just a profit and loss statement that says, I made this much money. I have these business expenses. I have this net amount that I need to pay taxes on, and then you pay taxes on it. If you start freelancing a lot and making a lot, then you'll have to do estimated taxes and you'll have to pay them quarterly. So you just kind of, that way you don't get this huge bill at the end of the year. You kind of pay a little bit every year. And then when you do your taxes, you can prepay the next year if you get a refund, which is kind of cool. So I've been using for many years, I'm actually finally getting an accountant this year, but for many years I used H&R Block. Has a self-employed version that I was using that's like $35 or $75 or something. Try to save for your future. If you do have a SEP IRA, self-employed individual retirement account, you can, any money you put into that when you pay your taxes at the end of the year, any money you put into your SEP IRA immediately reduce the amount of taxes you owe. So if you have enough, plus it's just really great to get into the practice of saving. I'm a saver. That's just kind of how I like to do things. You can borrow from your IRA, which is nice. So if you're in a bind, you have that little extra money there. But there are legal complications to having any kind of retirement plan. So do read those. I am not a tax professional, just giving you some recommendations. You can also start a 529 education plan, which doesn't really help with your tax write-offs or anything, but it does help at the time that you use it. And it has to be used on qualified education expenses, which includes room and board for your immediate or first extension of your family. So like if I'm saving for both my kids, but if they don't go to college, I can use it on myself. So I can go study abroad or get a master's or something like that. There is a fee to pull it out of there. So you want to be sure that you can use it. But I love school, so I'm happy to contribute to one. Okay, so that's like the legal stuff you need to have done. Oh, I wanted to show you. So I use Charles Schwab, and they have a bunch of these options. The SEP IRA is free to open. You don't really trade. You can just put it in a index account where it's all a bunch of stocks at once. So check that out. It's good to have it. Oh, here's the business operations tax page where you can do it online. It's super easy. Here's the EIN from the IRS. Make sure it's this page and not, there's lots of people who like charge you to do this scam. So you can set this up. You can, I think it's here that you can set up a DBA, which is doing business as. So I have mine as Heather Hogan doing business as Tenacious Goods, which is my art stuff. So I wanted to show you those. Okay. Back to presentation mode. So now that you're kind of set up on the back end, you want to make sure you have a contract, and the contract just needs to clarify what you're going to do what they need to do or have or be prepared with, and who owns what, and how much money is being exchanged and how many hours. I have a free contract here for you to have. You can make a copy of this and use it as you like. I've been using this contract for 15 years. I wrote it with my father-in-law, who is a business lawyer. It can be set up to pay per hour or as a fixed fee. You just change this. It talks about, what happens, who's who, what happens if you don't pay on time, what happens if there's a change. It gives me the right to hire a sub-consultant. So if I need to hire a programmer, I can do that. I just have to let the client know. It reduces my liability. So there's no warranty. Me making you a website is not going to make you king of a foreign country. This is an independent consultant relationship. I'm not expecting to become an employee of yours, and you don't have to pay taxes or legal issues around that. Copyright and trademarks protects you from, if they give you a bunch of copywritten material and say that it's theirs and you put it on a website for them, that's not your fault. That's kind of what that says. Likewise, you're not going to use copyrighted material in the stuff that you make for them. The social agreement is not legally binding at all. It just basically says we're going to be nice to each other, and that if you're a jerk, I can fire you because I don't want to work for you. The venue is important because it's in Sacramento. So if you're working for people out of state or out of country, you want it in your local jurisdiction if things do go to court. So you're local. And then you sign it. And there are online, nowadays, you can sign things online. You don't have to do this via mail. You can use DocuSign, or there's another competitor that's equally good. So that is my standard contract that I am giving to you. Use this link, make a copy, and make it your own. Okay. One of the questions I usually get is, do I charge a fixed fee or hourly? So that really depends on the project. So fixed fee is good because the clients like it because they know exactly how much they're going to spend. And we like it because we know exactly how much we're going to get. The thing with a fixed fee is that you have to be very specific and detailed in your scope. So you need to say exactly what's included and exactly what's not, because that's where things get a little tricky. If they think you're going to set up their email newsletter and start sending newsletters for them, and you're like, no, I said I'd set it up and you send it. So you need to be very clear about I will connect to your social media accounts, but I'm not going to set up your whole social media account. So you need to say, if it's already there, just say, and if it's not, you need to discuss with your client whether or not you're going to set all that up and what's included and what's not. This works great if it's a brand new site or if you're just redoing a site. The things you want to watch out for in a fixed fee is saying something like, yeah, I will set up e-commerce. So that should be like an alarm bell. Like when you're setting up e-commerce for them, you want to say, I will set up e-commerce that ties to your PayPal account, because setting it up with a bank can take extra time. I will set up these pages that come with WooCommerce, and I will integrate 5 products for you. Right? That's it. Or I will integrate, client needs to provide this spreadsheet of information, and I will set those up, because, as you've seen, it takes a while to set up e-commerce. So you want to limit how many products you're going to set up. Same with content. When you're doing content migration, you want to say how many pages it is you're going to make, right? If you're going to make 10 pages, they get 10 pages. That's great. That way you're not like, they're like, oh, but we have this whole other website from 1987 that we need you to put up there that's 600 pages. You're like, you can't, that's not in the scope. And most clients are reasonable. You also want to know ahead of time what software, plugins, printing costs, and everything that are going to be needed with the project. So if it's going to be WordPress, if you're going to host it on your development site and then you're going to move it, you've seen how long migrations can take, so you need to make sure you have time for that. I just do a spreadsheet of everything that I'm going to do, and then estimate how many hours it's going to take, and then multiply that by an hourly rate, and then wiggle with those numbers until I get to a fixed fee that I think the client will be okay with or that we've discussed. The times you're going to want to go hourly are when there's a lot of unknowns. So if somebody comes to you and they're like, I have this business and it's taking off and I'm so busy and I need a website and I need e-commerce and I need social media and I need newsletters. That's where you can be like, okay, I would love to work with you. Let me have some discussions with you, see what you have set up, clarify what it is you need done, prioritize those for you, and basically write you a massive scope. And then we can tackle each project on a fixed fee. So you can do a discovery as an hourly process. If the client is a hot mess and they don't know what they want, that's a really good time to be like, let's just go through a discovery process. Let's have 3 meetings to talk about what you need, what you have in place, what's most important, what business needs you have. And then you pay me by the hour to meet with you. And then you pay my time to create a report or a document that then that person can take to whoever they want. They don't have to hire you again. If it goes poorly, they can hire whoever they want to do it. So that's a good way to be like, oh, you have a lot going on. Let me clarify what you need. So that's kind of like writing a scope. So you could even write the website RFP for them. So write a document that says, this is what your website has, this is what your website needs, and stuff like that. If the client just needs maintenance, I usually do that hourly. So I'll go in every few months and update the plugins, back up the site, make sure everything back up first, then update the plugins, make sure everything's working. All right. What else? If you don't know, if there's a piece that you don't know how to do or that is still unclear, don't be afraid to split it into phases and say, hey, we'll do phase 1 is build the website. Phase 2 will be social media campaign and integration. Phase 3 will be tying in your point of sale system or something like that. So you can always break it into bite-sized pieces as you go. So that's kind of where the difference is between the fixed fee and hourly. Oh, if you choose to go hourly, be sure that you set a not to exceed amount. So you can say, let's go, I estimate that this task will take me 4 to 8 hours at this $35 an hour. I will not exceed the 8 hours, right? So you still need to clarify what it is you're doing, how long you think it'll take, and clarify what deliverables they're going to get at the end of the project, right? Okay. And so with that, you're going to need a scope of work. So the scope of work, I have an example here for you, and I'll show you. This is a sample one I provided students many times. You'll need to change it significantly. So first you want to kind of talk about your qualifications. You might have a nice testimonial to add in there. You're going to want to update the footer with your information, right? You don't want them to contact me. Talk about your approach, what you're going to do, how you're going to solve their problem, what's included. Maybe this project had these extra things like a networking marketplace and a protected area. And then you want to have a list of deliverables. So you can have like a checklist of what you're going to give them at the end of the project. The budget can be loose like this. Don't be careful about how much detail you give. I've had somebody where I gave more detail than this, and she wanted to cut out whole line items that were necessary. So I like to kind of break it into a few different buckets. And you have the flexibility to, if the logo redesign goes quickly, but the theme update takes longer, you can move that money and shuffle it. This is just a overview of the budget for the client. And I like this visual style. So it kind of tells you it's the budget and the schedule in one document. So you can use something like that. And then I include the contract in there. You want the scope. The contract is nothing without the scope. So those have to really go together. Okay. What else? To get jobs, you are going to need a good portfolio, right? You should have already made your portfolio in this class. You've built many websites through this class. If you did the Jane's Flowers site, you did the midterm site with a brochure, you did your final portfolio site for 361. If you took 361 for 362, you built a site for a client, so you can show that off. And you should still have a copy of it on your server, so you can use that one that you've already made, because their client might run with their site and change it. So definitely take screenshots of that. You want to have your social media accounts all set up and your email newsletter system set up that relate to your business. And be sure that your contact info is on the footer of every page of your personal portfolio website. I hate it when I go to recommend a student and I can't get in touch with them because they don't have their contact information, or it's dummy information, or it's incorrect. So be sure that that works, because that's the call to action, right? That's what you want people to do, is get in touch with you, so hire you. How to get gigs. It's hard. Not gonna lie. It can be challenging to find good projects that pay and are interesting and are fun. Some places to look. We Work Remotely is a job board for tech workers who work remotely. We were doing this way before the pandemic, by the way. Indeed is a good one. Craigslist, beware. Social media, just word of mouth is how I get most of my freelance jobs still. Yeah, somebody I know tells somebody else they know that I make websites, and then they come to me. That said, the projects that actually go through are probably about 50% of the people that kind of, hey, I hear you make websites, I need a website. And then I start talking to them, and often they're like, oh, I'm not ready, or I found somebody else, or they just disappear. And then about half of them I built the website for. And it depends too on how much time you have. So it's tricky. It's feast or famine. You're either busy or you're freaking out because you're not busy. So LinkedIn, so it's good to have a steady job on the side and have this just be extra stuff. So you want to update your LinkedIn profile. You want to maybe do some posts with progress shots of what you're working on. Your Behance profile, which you will have set up for this class, is important, kind of showpiece. You can do meetups on Zoom or in person for various industries. If you're really into like sci-fi or something, join some like regular sci-fi groups and then mention that you do web design. So maybe they need a website for their fan fiction or something like that. So just kind of put it in the footer of every email that you write, like, hey, I make websites, do you need one? Simple as that. There's a volunteer site called Catch a Fire that I've used, where it's skills-based volunteering. You can apply for a project where you do pro bono work, so free work for a person or a nonprofit, and it's really great. It's heartwarming. You get to practice your skills, you get to meet new people, and you get to help out with something that they need. And it's pretty professional. You meet through the website, you have a call, you set a scope, so you can say how much money you saved them through your skills-based volunteering. I highly recommend starting a mastermind group with peers that are also trying to do website freelancing. And maybe you meet every 2 weeks on Zoom just to talk about issues that you're dealing with around your business. It is super duper helpful. Okay, dog wants out. I would, do that sooner rather than later. Every time I've done that, it's a pain in the butt to set up, and sometimes it fizzles out, but it can be really, really powerful. Also, maybe find a mentor, see if there's somebody that, that might be willing to meet with you once a month and just help you out and answer your questions and be a guide. And then I'm always on the lookout for classes and workshops and challenges and seminars. So you can do that too, to try and keep your skills up, and then talk about what you do, because work begets more work. So if you're just sitting there like, no one's going to hire me, I'm so sad, I'm bored, and no one wants to hire that, right? It's pathetic. If you're like, well, I don't have a job right now, but I'm volunteering at the animal shelter, I'm doing this Catch a Fire skills-based volunteering for this organization, I have this pet project that I'm working on, that is interesting. That is like, oh, this person is doing things. I want to be involved with them. They are creative. They are interesting. They are motivated. Those people get hired, not the others, right? And then launch a campaign. The reason I have you do a campaign as one of your projects is so that you can do it for anything, right? You can promote yourself in a campaign. Hey, need a website? Have a deal, make a special, like 5-page website, WordPress theme, $500. Here's what I need from you. Keep the scope real tight. Send that out as a special, right? So market yourself, right? Use those skills on yourself. And then hopefully, if you do all that, success will look like working when you want for people that you want to work for, that you like, on projects that you enjoy and find interesting, and that give you time and a little bit of extra money to do the things you want to do. So that is what you need to do. Where you should go from here, where I think you should go from here. These are all things that I have done, that I am currently doing, that help me sustain my freelance stuff. And then I kind of took most of this and converted it to art making. So that's pretty easy too, to kind of take it the other direction. So I'm done. Yes. Okay. It's time to take the dog for a walk. I hope that helps you. Please let me know if you have questions.